to the RunRX podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running.
Welcome back to the RunRX podcast. I'm your host, Coach Caroline, and I'm here with Coach Valerie. Coach, I want you to tell our listeners about what happened during your run. I think it was over the weekend. Explain the story that we were talking about over coffee this week.
Yeah. So I went for a run the other night. I did a workout and then I immediately just went for a run. I felt like I was warmed up from the run. So I just went out and all of a sudden I had this pain in my glute, my right glute. I call it butt lock. It just felt like, oh my gosh, I can't move my leg. So I thought, okay, well, I had done in my workout a bunch of squats. So I was like, all right, you just did a bunch of squats. You didn't stretch before you ran, So I just stopped and I stretched and I finished my run, but it was just still bothering me. So when I got back to the house, I was like, okay, no, you didn't just do squats. I also had done a bunch of pull-ups and a bunch of ring dips. So my workout had been an upper and lower body. So I got my roller out and I started rolling my upper back. And the more I kept rolling my upper back rib cage area, my glutes just all of a sudden let go.
Wow.
So I'm like, the tension in my glute was coming from, I had done a bunch, like I just said, done a bunch of pull-ups, bunch of dips. And obviously my muscles in my upper back were tight. And then when I went running, those tight back muscles pulled on my glutes. And it was just it's not funny. I mean, it's funny because I still make mistakes. And it's like, I want my runners to know that I'm human too. My thought immediately went to the squats, right? Because the pain was in my glutes. So my thought, of course, was like, all right, Valerie, you did a bunch of squats and obviously your glutes are tired. And the reality was my upper body was just tense from doing all those pull-ups and it was pulling on my glutes. And the lesson is I should have, because I'm one of those, I'm really consistent in warming up before I run. And if I would have done my warm up, I probably would have felt the tension in my upper back and might have done some extra upper back work.
Yeah.
I didn't. I just thought, well, I just warmed up because I did a workout. And by the way, there's a lot of days where that's fine. There's a lot of days where I'll do a workout and go right into a run and no issue. So one of the things that I like to tell runners is that instead of wondering why did that happen? I like to do more troubleshooting. Like one, how can I get out of this pain? Is it something I can get out of and go keep running? And then what can I do recovery-wise to make sure I don't get it back? So I took a clinic once from a PT and the advice was wherever the pain is, go up the river, down the river. Do not assume that that's exactly where the pain is. And that's important, guys, because it could be a hip pain coming from your shoulder. It could be a foot pain coming from your shoulder. It could be a knee pain coming from your back. We're connected. It's like we know everything's one unit.
We so isolate it. And it's funny because, we have had some of our runners will figure out, I need to roll that area, but I also need to roll below it, let's say. And I can guarantee that if you've been listening to us for a while, you probably would have done the same thing. You would have said, it's for my squat. So I'll roll my butt, I'll roll down my legs, I'll roll my ankles. I'll even maybe go so far because I'm such a fan of Valerie. I have the tune-up balls and I'm going to do my feet. And then I guarantee you, if you were in our membership, you would have come back 3 days later and said, I'm still in pain. And look at all this work I was doing. And then what would be funny is we would say well, what did you do in the workout before? And that's when you would let us know. And we'd say, but it's funny that up the river and down the river. So I thought it was really interesting that just like us, you're going to think it was the squats. And then you were able to realize it was your shoulders. And that's also really powerful that you will learn if you come and work with us in the immersion, take the RunRX quiz, and we give you an opportunity to come work with us for the 8-week immersion. And that's when you're going to learn why her shoulders, what they had to do, why her back had to do with her running, like that she was holding herself up. We talk about this so often, but can you reinforce that real quick, Valerie? Why holding up your body in pose?
Yeah. And it's
was
interesting
causing
too,
that.
because we had another runner that she had gone and done a workout in the morning that was very much body weight. Leg heavy. She had done a bunch of squats. Same thing. She did a bunch of squats and thrusters. And then I went running and I had this pain. And then she said, oh, and by the way, I was in meetings all afternoon sitting. And it's not, and again, we're not laughing because we think it's funny.
We're laughing because we've done it. I've done it.
Yeah, we did the same thing. And we discount it. We forgot, oh yeah, and I sat in a 3-hour meeting. So here's the thing. Running is using all of your muscles. All of our muscles are working with our running. But we only want to use them, right? We always say this. We use a minimal amount of muscle. However, holding your upper body up, guys, is a huge amount of effort. And one of the things, so it's your postural muscles that are really fatiguing in your run. And it's important to understand that because we teach that in our immersion, how to strengthen your upper body hold. But here's the thing, you're going to strengthen it for standing, for sitting, and for running. If you want to be able to hold your upper body lifted, right, for an extended period of time, you know how tiring it is. We've all sat in meetings. We get so tired. Sitting is tiring, you know? And
yeah.
So it's funny, but so we spend so much time in strengthening that ability to hold. But part of that is what we realized with so many of our runners, we all hold so much tension in our upper body. So we're adding more work already to our upper body load. And we talked about this earlier, like we're trying to help people relax the tension out of their shoulders. And they're like gritting their teeth and looking at us like, we are relaxed.
I am relaxed. What are you talking about? I am pulling. That's always the question I always say to you. I am pulling.
But it's like and we see it because, again, we've already lived through it. But we keep telling people, I promise you that if you do, it's amazing that the tension starts in the head and the neck.
Yeah.
And that head and neck tension travels down to your feet. And you're down there like, my calves are tight. So I'm stretching my calves. I'm rolling my calves. I go to PT for my calves. We hear this all the time. I have tight this. And we're like, you're sitting there clenching your neck. That's why your calves are also tight. So we really do teach that philosophy of like, let's get the kinks out of the whole chain. And boy, does it make a difference, right? In your whole running. But it's also that awareness, like, oh, you've been sitting for a while. You've been standing for a while. Let's make sure we relax all of the muscles. But then again, like we laugh because we do this too, right? Like I just did the same thing. Went right out running, didn't do any stretching or rolling or any, I didn't loosen up my whole body. I was tense in my upper body, not from sitting, but from doing active exercise, which can be just as tense inducing. And then my body said, hello. And it manifested in my glute. I don't know why, but if I would have just kept focusing on my glute and not ever talking to my upper neck or back, I guarantee you that pain would have been right back in my run the next time. And I would have kept blaming it on the squats.
Well, and it's so powerful because as I've talked about before, that sciatic pain that was actually in my right butt, that I still have to wrestle with if I'm doing too much vacuuming, which is not my strong suit, guys. I'm not a cleaner. But if I'm working too much with my dominant side, and I'll feel it go up into the other shoulder. It's like across the way, and it's just really powerful. So if you're thinking to yourself, wow, this is really interesting, but my running group would never understand me, then you need to join the immersion and be part of our community. Because in our community, you can geek out on things like this. You can ask these questions, and we will talk to you about some of these things and hopefully help you through, like, what did you do? Well, try rolling here or try doing this. We'll also do a little commiserating, because if somebody says, I did this workout and then I sat in a meeting for 3 hours, I'm going to be the first to put up my hand and say, yep, been there, done that. I thought I didn't have time, and now I'm paying for it after dinner. So we would love for you to join us. Go to the runrx.fit website, and right on top, it'll say join the immersion. You can also take the quiz and go in to find out maybe what is happening in your run and get a sense of what you can do right off the bat to change it. But then get in and work with us for 8 weeks, and let's get you running pain-free before the fall. Thanks, guys.
Thank Thank you for joining us on the RunRX podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.